Hello and welcome to the Investigator TV World Animal Protection Special Edition. My name is Daniel Zinabongtatia, a proud man from Soga, son of Uganda. Thank you. You're welcome. With me, I'm joined by a beautiful lady, Edith Kabesime, a researcher, conservationist, a protector of the wildlife. Edith, say hi to the viewers.
Good afternoon, viewers. Good evening, viewers. Good morning, viewers, wherever you are.
Yes. Who are you?
Yeah.
Well, as in,
Okay, who
yes,
am I?
who is Edith?
Yeah, who is Edith? Of course, as you've introduced, my name is Edith Kabesime.
All right.
And I work for World Animal Protection as the Wildlife Campaign Manager for Africa.
Okay.
World Animal Protection is an international organization. As the name suggests, we protect animals in farming, animals in the wild. Basically, our vision is that world where animals are free from suffering, they are free from cruel treatment.
Okay.
And our work revolves around working with people, mobilizing people, working with communities, working with the governments, the private sector, to ensure that animals are free from suffering. That's basically our mission.
Well,
to
thank
move
you.
the world to protect animals.
Thank
That's
you.
what
You
we
just launched a report, but somewhere when you're talking, you made the line that wildlife must have a wildlife. What exactly do you mean?
Yeah, first of all, generally wildlife in general terms means plants and wild animals. But of course, we are an animal welfare organization. When we speak of wildlife, in most cases, we are referring to the animals, wild animals, the animals that are created to live in the wild. So the line wild animals have a right to live in the wild, to live a wild life. It is a narrative that we as World Animal Protection have adopted. And it's a narrative that would like to champion, a narrative that would like to get into the minds of people, to recognize and appreciate that wild animals are not commodities, to be exploited, to be abused, to be treated in the way we want as humans. But wild animals are beings like me and you. They have feelings. In fact, scientists say animals are sentient beings. They can feel, they have emotions, they behave in ways that are unique to them. They can look after their young, they can feel pain. So all those emotions means that when we talk about wild animals have, in any case, they deserve to be treated in the right way. So they have rights as beings. They have blood, like me and you. They have feelings. So they deserve to be treated. For that matter, their natural home is the environment. It's out in the wild. Their natural home is out
So we should,
nature.
should keep them in the wild.
Exactly, because that is their natural home. Their natural home is the wild, and that is where they can fulfill all their... I think that is where they can derive all elements that constitute what I would call good life for wild animals. In the wild, animals are adapted to, for instance, to hunt. So when we remove them from the wild and bring them into our homes, all in captive facilities, they are not able to express that natural behavior. Their natural instincts are tampered with. So they are supposed to be left to enjoy the wild. So they have a right, just like you and me, you have a right to shelter, to have shelter over your roof, over your head. Wild animals have a right Their shelter is the wild, the habitats, the forests, the rivers, the lakes, the trees. That is where they belong, and we should give them that opportunity to enjoy that right.
In the report you launched this afternoon, themed Bread for Profit, the truth about global wildlife farming. What are the findings, and then what are the dangers of like farming, wildlife farming, say to have an animal caged for other purposes?
Yeah, so the report, Bread for Profit, the truth behind wildlife farming, is indeed the report we've just launched. In fact, we launched it on 4th to coincide with the World Wildlife Day, which was celebrated the day before.
Okay.
And this report reveals the global scale, indeed, of wildlife farming, those animals that are kept in captivity for commercial purposes. We are not talking about animals, let me maybe first give the context. We are not talking about animals which are kept in captivity, which are bred purely for conservation purposes, like for restoration of wildlife populations in the wild. We are not talking about animals that are in rehabilitation centers, like zoos, which are primarily for rehabilitation and return to the wild. And we are not talking about domestic animals that we have traditionally bred or kept in domestic environments. We are talking about commercial exploitation of wild animals in farms, in captive facilities for profit. So this report reveals that over 5.5 billion wild animals are trapped in this industry. And this industry, I could say there are different subsectors that supply wildlife farms. First of all, there are those animals that are being bred or farmed to supply the exotic pet industry. There are those animals that are being bred to supply the traditional medicine industry, such as the lions in some of the countries in South Africa and Asia. But then there are also those animals that are being bred for the fashion industry, and examples comprise of, say, the mink farms in some of the Scandinavian countries, Denmark, Sweden, and those Netherlands and elsewhere. Then we have crocodiles, for instance, in Australia, which are farmed in captive facilities, provide skins for fashion, for bags, for belts, for shoes. You can imagine converting a crocodile, a majestic crocodile, into a shoe. And then we have animals in entertainment, elephants, which are bred in captivity for entertainment. And in this case, we are talking about dolphins. We are talking about animals like elephants. Elephants, especially in the Asian countries like Thailand, they are bred and kept in captivity so they can perform tricks. They are trained to perform tricks for unsuspecting tourists. And all of that has implications on the welfare of these animals. Because when, for instance, to ride an elephant, to get an elephant to perform, they have to go through very, very, very terrible training, including hurting them with pointed hooks so that they can behave. And that, of course, impacts on the psychological well-being of these animals, on the physical well-being of these animals. And that's the reason that in captive breeding, wildlife farming, indeed has a negative impact on the welfare of the animals. But also, in captive facilities, animals suffer injury. Because after all, these animals are simply bred for selling. So sometimes even when they get sick, the owners do not invest in making sure that these animals are properly treated. But even sometimes they may suffer from diseases that are not known. Therefore, we don't have the capacity, people don't have the capacity to treat those animals. Some of the facilities, the environment is horrible. The sanitation is very bad. There is no enrichment. So basically, a domestic environment or a farm environment where these animals are usually kept does not demonstrate or cannot replicate what it is naturally supposed to be. That is the wild. So all that has implication on the psychological well-being, on the health, on the physical well-being of these animals. Sometimes some animals even, they get psychological torture and stress to the extent that they will start what we call self-mutilation. They start biting meat off themselves,
Bodies, yeah.
like primates. When they are badly frustrated, they can start injuring themselves. The same thing with, just like how people in extreme stress sometimes commit suicide. So because animals are also sentient beings, they can commit suicide. They can do it. They mutilate themselves. African grey parrots are another example of wild animals that are actually caught in this farming. And when they are frustrated, African grey parrots start plucking feathers of their bodies. And once parrots pluck their feathers off the body, the feathers don't grow back. So it means this animal is going to have open wounds, it's going to have exposed body, which can now be prone to infection by pathogens and others, things that cause zoonotic diseases. The other concern why wildlife farming is problematic, and what this report reveals, is that animals, whereas it is touted generally that wildlife farming benefits conservation, the reverse can actually be, it is actually the reverse. There is little evidence, scientific evidence, to show that actually wildlife farms contribute to conservation. Very, very little evidence, if any. But in many farms where we have been and where we have witnessed some of these things, it's actually common to find that illegal hunters go to the wild, hunt these wild animals, and bring them to the farmers, because there is a constant demand for fresh
meat.
Fresh genes from the wild. Because when you overbreed animals, they lose their vitality. So in order to keep the animals breeding, and you need new stock, so traffickers will go to the wild and pluck out a few animals and bring them into captivity to continuously supply the farmers.
There is a concern on trophy hunting. I take that to be, like, say, a tourism aspect. While governments are saying, look, they want to develop their tourism sectors, then the gains on the economy, say foreign export from the tourists, you people on the other side are saying, please, that's wrong. And isn't there a common ground for you people to mitigate the process?
Yeah, there is, as I said, animals are sentient beings. If we start from that point, that animals are sentient beings that have a right to live, like you and me. They have a right to live. When we talk of conservation, we need to look at conservation from many perspectives. And all these perspectives must be brought together if conservation has to succeed. We cannot only conserve species, we cannot only conserve populations of animals. Those populations are made of individuals. It is those individuals that make a healthy group of animals, the species, but also the variety, but also the numbers. So each and every individual is unique. Therefore, welfare is about ensuring that conservation does not simply look at the general picture, We also look at the individual species, individuals, the individual animals. They also matter. Why? Because they have unique roles that they play in the society. You'll find that in the pride of lions, each of them has a role. In a group of monkeys, each of them has a role. So taking one out of them in the name of trophy hunting destabilizes that social setup within that family. It's just like you have your family, say Mukasa's family, and you say if you take out Edith, after all the family will continue to thrive.
That they'll be missing.
But you have not thought about the psychological torture that removal is causing to the stability of that family. So it's the same thing with wild animals. Okay? The same thing with dogs, the same thing with the chicken. They know each other. So destabilizing them by taking out species in the name of individuals, in the name of trophy hunting, certainly impacts on them. You have killed a life, you have removed a life, you have killed somebody. Yes, you've killed somebody. Right from just the ethical part of it. Look at the ethical dimension of it. But then when you come to the conservation dimension, again, as I said, each individual contributes. Therefore, the ecosystem is made up of different contributors, and that individual, if taken out, contributes. Some of the species are heads. They lead their prides. So and if you look at trophy hunting, in trophy hunting, hunters prefer animals that look majestic. You get? Animals that look majestic. If it's lions, it's those lions with the big mane, which is maybe dark, unique, because the hunter is looking at that something that is unique, that is going to hang on his or her wall and boast about it. So they will not go for an animal which has inferior genes, inferior features. They will look for that animal that is majestic. So if you take out an animal that is majestic, that is the best of the best, then it means you are degrading the gene pool of that specific species. And that, of course, impacts on the vitality and the long-term viability of that species from a conservation perspective.
All right. Edith, recently we saw pictures of an MP and other prominent Ugandans embracing and hugging lions. What could be the dangers of like socializing with these wild animals? Because we saw in a conservation house somewhere. Could they have?
Yeah. As I said, wildlife farming, captive breeding, is breeding for different industries, like petting. So that act of embracing a lion is what we call petting. And what happens is that these lions, when they are bred in captivity, in order for them to accept to be petted, because these are wild animals, it means they are removed from their mothers. From day one, they are removed from their mothers. When they fall down like this, they are removed from their mothers.
Exactly.
They are taken in some artificial place, maybe a small room, where now they are hand-fed. They are given milk. Maybe they'll be given minced meat, slowly. Then they grow. The way we grow our little puppies, that's how they grow them. Meaning they have been removed from their mothers. They have not had the opportunity to suckle even the colostrum that gives them immunity from day one. So now these have been raised like our domestic cats and dogs. But even our dogs, they get the opportunity to suck their mothers. They get the opportunity, the cats, they are with their mothers until they are able to move around and chase rats. So these cats, when they are raised like that for petting, somehow their animal instinct, the wild instinct is destabilized. That means that once these animals, for some reason, they are released to go into the wild, they will not survive. That is danger number one. To the animal, they will not survive because they have been hand-fed and they have not developed the skills to be able to
survive in the jungle.
In the jungle, to survive for themselves. And that is typical of big cats, world over. Big cats. Big cats, the lions, the leopards, the cheetahs, the tigers. You raise them in captivity, it's hard to take them in the wild. And they survive on their own without human interfering and giving them management and giving them the food, all that. In any case, they will become a problem. But coming back to your question of the Member of Parliament hugging the lion, of course, he's not alone. I've seen many, there are many clips flying all over the place, people hugging lions. This practice of lion petting, I should say, has been practiced elsewhere. And in Africa, the main culprits have been countries in Southern Africa, which have invested heavily in captive breeding of lions for petting, for walking with, as dogs, just like the way we walk with dogs or walk with our cows. And then, of course, even in Asian countries, they import these lions and they can pet them, they can have them in their living room and all that. And that one is driven by, of course, people thinking they are now affluent and they can interact with animals that way. But the danger with that is that, first of all, you are harming this animal from a welfare perspective. That is danger number one. You could be having an infection, you as a human being,
spread it,
and that infection can be spread to the animal. Because in those clips, I've not seen where these guys who are visiting that facility are sanitizing. You see them embracing the lions. You see them kissing the foxes. You see them holding snakes, but they don't show them where they are. The whole process, you don't see them sanitizing. You don't see them with masks. So you are likely to transmit a disease to those animals. And by the way, COVID, for example, which affects human beings, it also affects lions. So those cubs could easily pick COVID-19 from those guys who are visiting these facilities and petting these animals.
Okay. So
COVID-19 affects lions, but there are other diseases that affect lions. But there are also diseases which affect lions that can also be picked by human beings and they infect us. So there's a public health concern that actually some of these facilities we see and we unsuspectingly interact with the animals, thinking it is fancy, thinking it's nice, thinking we are being, wow, we can end up, it can actually be a spark for a huge global pandemic like COVID-19. Because that's how it started, from a food market where wildlife meat was being sold amongst other foods. And then COVID-19 came about. Ebola has come the same way. The other day, Ebola in Kagati, we don't know how it came about. Up to now, nobody knows. The whole of that western axis was locked down because of an Ebola outbreak. And then we started saying it came from the mines, it came from them. But it could have come from somebody keeping maybe a monkey in their compound and the kids are playing with it and then has infection and then the infection moves. So in lions, referring to that Member of Parliament and several people who have done the same, World Animal Protection carried out research, I think about 2 years ago, and that research revealed, actually we searched the literature to find out what literature does exist that talks about diseases in lions that can actually affect humans as well. So we found over 63 pathogens, including bacteria, fungi, viruses, and even other parasites like worms and other issues that cause pathogens that cause skin problems. We found all those pathogens. The literature is awash with those pathogens. That lions have up to 63 pathogens that cause disease in lions, and those pathogens can also inflict disease on human beings. So when I see people embracing lions, well knowing that there are over 60 pathogens that can inflict disease on humans coming from lions, then the question I have for them is, okay, you have embraced, you have the clip is making rounds all over the world, all over the country, but are you aware of the bugs that you might have picked? And you're taking to your children, you're taking to your wife, you're taking to your relatives, you're taking to your friends. Our parliament is over 300 legislators. So just one legislator hugging a lion and picking a parasite, a dangerous one, moreover, we might not even know, can end up causing us a catastrophe. And then we start saying who has bewitched our members of parliament.
Losing the entire house.
We'll start saying who has bewitched.
Because of a strange disease picked from...
Yes, because many of the... Let me tell you, we know when we talk of zoonotic diseases, we know this much. There are so many new, what they call novel pathogens, or we call creatures that cause disease in wild animals that we do not know. Because the wild is not 100% explored. Recently, I saw a clip, actually not a clip, I read an article where in a certain forest, I think in Asia or the Amazon, they found a mushroom growing on the leg of a frog. A mushroom
on the leg?
Growing on the leg of a frog. And this has puzzled scientists. And they're like, if this is true, that actually a mushroom can grow on the leg of a frog, it can actually become a serious parasite on the frog. And we don't know the impact it might cause to the frog populations in that ecosystem. So we should be careful on how we interact with wild animals. I'm not saying that wild animals should be killed. That should not be the reason to kill the wild animals. It actually should be the reason to protect their habitats. It should be the reason to protect them themselves. And it should be the reason to make sure that they're protected within those natural habitats where they are meant to be as wild animals.
Okay, given the dangers as we have seen and heard, the report that you launched this afternoon is a call and cause for action. What are the campaigns?
Yeah, of course, the biggest call is that wild animals have a right to wildlife. That's the key message. That wild animals have a right to wildlife, therefore they should be protected humanely in their habitats because that's where they belong. That is the key message. But the call to action, first of all, is we need, first of all, to educate. Yeah, so this report, of course, reveals a lot. But at the same time, based on those revelations, we have one key message. And that key message, which everybody should know, is that wild animals have a right to wildlife. They have a right to live in the wild. They have a right to live in those habitats that are humanely protected. so that they can enjoy themselves. And at the end of the day, we benefit both the animals, the people, but of course, and the nature. Because we will actually have the triple benefits. We will have protected the animals, so their welfare is safeguarded. We will have met our conservation objective of protecting those animals. We will protect ourselves from the potential risk of zoonotic diseases, but at the same time, we have protected nature. So it's a triangle: the animals, nature, and ourselves. That's what it should be. We are all beneficiaries. And then the call to action, or I would say, first of all, we need to raise awareness. We need to help people change their attitudes. People need to appreciate the fact that we are part of nature. And when we destabilize nature by destabilizing the animals, at the end of the day, we pay the price. So people need to appreciate. So one of the things, me and you, we need to educate, especially you in the media. We need to continuously educate people. Let's not amplify the negatives. Let's reinforce the positive. The second thing is our governments. Our governments need to invest more in, again, protecting animals in their natural habitats, remove the threats that are causing animals to decline. Because what is motivating some government to begin thinking of breeding animals in captivity, they think it's a short-term solution to address population declines. But that is not sustainable. So sustainability means we are addressing the major threats or the underlying causes, which is habitat loss, human population, our consumption behaviors, deforestation, which destroys their habitats. But also we are addressing, what else? Yeah, we are addressing poaching, hunting, and then of course outlaw wildlife breeding. Because, as I said, there is very little evidence that connects commercial wildlife breeding to conservation. That connection is very, very, very weak, and we cannot justify it. The other thing is put in place legislations that protect animals. Wildlife. Like right now in our country and in many countries in Africa, we lack the animal welfare law. The one we have in Uganda is so old that it's not even implemented. So an animal welfare law and strategy is necessary, because then that one will give us an anchor where we can now implement all these things we are talking about. But also, we want me and you, let's be the mouthpiece. Let's also devote the consciousness, the love, the compassion, because these animals are sentient beings and deserve to be treated as such, not as just commodities. But also government to implement, and all the other stakeholders, comprehensive measures that do not simply look for quick fixes, like captive breeding as a quick fix. Look at all the holistic package of measures, like finding alternatives for those people that derive livelihoods from breeding animals. Of course, it has not become a rampant problem here, much as we are gaining appetite for it.
But Uganda wants to go that way.
Yes, Uganda wants to go that way. But sadly, the countries that went that way 20 years ago, they are saying we wish we knew, because it has become messy. And now they are saying, let's go back to the basics. Keep our animals in the wild. Let nature take its course as we apply science, research, and all that to make sure that we keep our ecosystems more healthy, more balanced, for our benefit, the benefit of the animals, and of course the planet.
Okay, as we conclude, what could be your last message to the global world?
Of course, first of all, when you talk of Africa, you are talking about Africa is synonymous with wild animals. And when we talk about the global world, a lot of the global world, especially the North and Asia, depends a lot on Africa as a source of wild animals. So I wish we can cut the global world, the global North should put in place measures that prohibit, that disrupt the exploitation of wild animals from the global South. For instance, trophy hunting, all the trophy hunters, majority, they come from the North. They come from the global North. They come to hunt in the global South, in Africa. So if the global North puts in place measures like trophy hunting bans, no entrance of trophies into our countries, a hunter who kills a buffalo in Uganda will have nowhere to take the trophies. If we are talking about the corporate sector, like the airlines are global. The airlines are one of the facilitators of wildlife exploitation. So unless they aid the transportation of animals from the global South to the global North and the other way around, these animals will not move around. In fact, by doing that, airlines are simply distributing disease, because you carry species from here, which maybe may carry their pathogens, you take them the other side and the other way around. So we are one big global village. And my core really is that we should look at it from that perspective. That one thing, a mistake happening in Uganda can actually become a global mistake, just like the way it was with COVID. So wildlife farming globally is uncalled for, because it does not benefit the animals, it does not benefit conservation, it does not benefit public health, it only puts us at risk.
So the report actually highlights that wildlife farming is the problem, not the solution.
Not the solution. True.
Yes, I've been with Edith, the
Wildlife Campaigns Manager at Wild Animal Protection.
Thank you, Edith.
Thank you too.
Investigator TV, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.